We've been talking about so many issues already this morning.
Yeah.
In just these last few minutes, we just got done talking about immigration, about marijuana. We're going to be talking about education. It can seem kind of funny, like we're just going all over the place. What on earth do these things have in common?
Absolutely, and I think the way we talk about them as Catholics too, it doesn't fit nicely and neatly into any partisan box, like no one party. So I think the question is like, well, what's kind of tying it all together for us? And I think recently, the popes have used this phrase, integral ecology, to kind of talk about how we approach issues in the public square, in the social sphere. And really what they're driving at is that there's a kind of harmony. There's a harmony between ourselves and God, between ourselves and our human relationships, ourselves, and
Yep,
even ourselves and creation. So this framework of integral ecology, it's really kind of taking the idea of ecology, right? The connections we find in nature, and really bringing them into the human dimension as well. We talk about natural law, so we can talk about laws in nature like gravity, like if you water a plant, it will grow. And there are laws also that govern human life as well. So integral ecology is really just a way of kind of tying it all together.
Sure. It's a new phrase that we're using, but it's an idea that is as old as creation itself, and has been woven out through church documents and it's not a new idea, but
Certainly.
Finally, I think that we have some language to talk about it a little bit better. That has been a gift in part from Laudato Si, Pope Francis' encyclical on care for creation. And so now to help illustrate what integral ecology is, we have another video, and it's going to feature our friend Paul. And this time we get our
special guest.
Yes, another special guest, because Paul's good friend Babe will be there. And so I was, as much as I love that first video, I just was a little remiss that the Blue Ox was not present.
Exactly. He has a high paycheck. So.
Oh, Minnesotan.
Awesome.
So let's take a look.
You are a Minnesota Catholic. You pray, serve, and evangelize because you are Catholic. You do your best to follow God's loving plan and live out your vocation because you are Catholic. You know that you are called to love God, to love your neighbor, and to love yourself as God created you, male or female. But what about everything else? What about the environment, the earth itself, our common home? In today's political and social climate, care for the environment and care for the person often seem at opposite ends of the spectrum. We feel forced to choose a love for the earth and its creatures over loving God and caring for our own human family. Recent popes, bishops, and theologians have spoken of something called integral ecology, a way of caring for both the natural and the human aspects of ecology. Turns out, when Catholic teaching is lived fully, humanity and the environment can both flourish. In fact, this was how God always wanted it to be. Men and women tilling the garden, making it bear even more fruit, and using the earth's resources to enrich human life while also caring for it. Respecting God's design and creation, and living according to the wisdom found in his providential ordering of nature. This is the meaning of integral ecology. By caring for our common home, we can serve our brothers and sisters, and together love God, because we are Catholic.
What a powerful introduction to integral ecology, and a reminder that everything is connected. That's what Pope Francis reminds us of. And I think that it just gives us such a fantastic framework, as we said, for understanding why we're exploring all these issues here today at Catholics at the Capitol, and why they all are connected through the same threads.
Absolutely. Now we have joining with us Jason Adkins, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference. And MCC has really been focused on taking this concept of integral ecology and helping apply it to our Minnesota situation. So they've produced a beautiful document called Minnesota, Our Common Home, which you can also check out on the website mncatholic.org/ourcommonhome. And Jason, there it is. It's beautiful, nice green. It's got the trees, it's got the lakes. And I actually know, because I was there at the time, that our bishops, when they visited Rome last January, they actually presented this document to our Holy Father, Pope Francis. So, kind of thanking him for some of his inspiration in Laudato Si. What's the impetus behind this document, and how do you see it applying here in our own backyard?
Thanks. First of all, thanks, Jonathan and Maria, for doing this today. Two of the great Catholic leaders in our archdiocese, and so blessed to be joining you today and doing this. So thank you. But integral ecology is really about bringing things together. In a world that's dividing, it divides us along political lines, ideological lines, all sorts of division that is sown, and that's really the work of the enemy. Integral ecology is a way of bringing things together in the political arena, integrating. One of the reasons integral ecology is so important in helping us understand the church's advocacy in the public arena is not simply a grab bag of random issues that we care about it, but deeply connected to a vision of the dignity of the human person. In our visits yesterday with legislative leaders, one of the legislative leaders said, I might disagree with you on some things, but what I appreciate, unlike most of the other groups at the Capitol, is that your views are consistent. There's a consistent ethic of life in everything we do. And so integral ecology is just a way of rebranding that consistent ethic of life in many ways, that we have to think of human society like an ecosystem. What's the most important aspect of an ecosystem is the protection of life. But we can't just protect life, we want all life to flourish. And if we impact something negatively in the ecosystem in one place, then it's going to have an impact down the road in other places. That's what the popes call integral ecology, but there's a natural ecology and a human ecology, and it's tying each of those together and highlighting their interdependence on one another is really what is this transformative statement in our common home.
Well, and so, Jason, as part of that, you mentioned the connection of relationships, the connection of the importance of life, but also then our relationship to our own bodies, our relationship even then for women to the babies they are carrying. And so if you can talk a little bit about reproductive issues that are going to be explored today.
Sure. So at Catholics of the Capitol, we want to have a broad variety of issues. They're all connected in the sense that they speak to a preferential option for the poor and vulnerable, but also they're a way of being a bridge builder with legislators, but also saying you need to reconsider a position. So something's going to find something, every legislator is going to find something that they like when they meet with our folks tomorrow, but also something that they're challenged by, and that's part of the purpose. And one of those bills is opposing the Reproductive Choice Act, and there's a real fear among pro-choice advocates that Roe v. Wade is going to overturn. So this is like a preemptive strike against the rights of the unborn. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, to say abortion rights in Minnesota are absolute. You can have no restrictions, no parental notification, no women's right to know. It's kind of a ham-handed way of trying to overturn those things that are already in statute, but also specifically and most perniciously deny the rights of the fetus, the embryo, the unborn child in statute. And we think that, again, if you take that approach of integral ecology, you need to get in the door. That protecting life is so very important. But the church cannot just respond by opposing something. We need to propose a better vision, and that's a vision of prenatal justice. Not pitting the rights of women and the unborn, but working for the justice of the child and the mother who's struggling with a difficult pregnancy. What are the things that we need to do to not just limit the supply of abortion, but also create a lower demand? So how do we help the woman and accompany her in that walk in a difficult pregnancy and get her the things she needs in public policy? At a prior Catholics of the Capitol, we advocated for the first 1,000 days from conception to age 2. What are the nutritional supports, the things that mothers need to help carry that child to term? We can think about housing, childcare. All these issues are interconnected. So if we want to build a pro-life culture, we can't say we need to just cut the legal incidences of abortion and limit supply. We need to also limit the demand and the reasons why someone would make that choice. That's integral ecology in a nutshell.
And I think you mentioned this earlier when you were talking about your conversation yesterday with the legislator, how they said they might disagree with you, but they can't argue with the kind of integration we're talking about here. And it just strikes me again, I think people are so dissatisfied with both parties. Like what a refreshing, compelling, grounded vision this really is. So can you say just a word about how important it is for Catholics to really form themselves in the entirety of the social teaching and not kind of get marching orders from an ideology or a political party?
Well, if we think that things are polarizing and ossifying along party lines and we're actually losing ground on important issues, it's precisely because we've entered into and bought into a partisan framework. Our experience over and over and over again is our teachings and our policy positions on really difficult issues are embraced and understood and thought through much more because we're not partisan, because we're principled and they understand that. So we have to be principled. You don't have to make every issue your most important issue. You might care about the life issues and abortion and assisted suicide, but if you're not paying attention to immigration, criminal justice reform, poverty, you're going to be less effective as an advocate. So it's important that we embrace the whole spectrum of the church's social teaching, not look at issues in isolation, but as connected and as a whole, and then talk about them that way way too. And that's the distinction between a partisan framework and a principled framework. Are we talking about abortion because it helps Republicans get votes, or are we talking about abortion because it's a deeper vision of the human person that promotes prenatal justice for the child and the mother?
Well,
Beautiful.
and certainly this vision, it combats what has become known as a throwaway culture. Pope Francis talks about this. And that's also, when you invited everyone to Catholics at the Capitol, that's something that you really pointed out in that welcome video, that this is a way to combat throwaway culture. And can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by throwaway culture and why we as Minnesotans need to stand up against that?
Well, we live in a consumer society, and it's easier that when things are difficult or challenging, or persons are difficult or challenging, especially at the end of life, or those who commit crimes, it's easier to just put those people away and discard them in the sense of, oh, you committed a crime. The simple answer is to lock you up. You are difficult, you cost a lot of money caring for you at the end of life. Well, let's just give someone a vial of pills and send them home to die, because at the end of the day, people don't want to have that burden financially or personally. And so that's the throwaway culture in the essence, is to view people as discardable, not someone worth accompanying, worth walking with toward a better vision of the good, a better vision of life, and ultimately their ultimate goal of heaven as well. It's just easier to discard people these ways, whether they're criminals, the elderly, the unborn. When they become inconvenient, we just want to toss them aside like a piece of IKEA furniture.
Well, I know we're both so appreciative. I'm sure so many across the state are appreciative of you, the bishops, the Catholic Conference, for putting on an event like this, which, as you say, it doesn't just condemn throwaway culture, but it provides a positive vision. And it doesn't just give us action items to do, but it helps form us in the foundations that give rise to them. So we're grateful to be here, and we're grateful for today's events, and we're really looking forward to the rest of the program. Thanks, Jason.